Okay, I guess I'm all set. Thank you.
Don't worry about it. Come here.
You want to switch or?
No, they got you right there.
Maybe I'll take this out, okay?
Okay, yes.
Or I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just put it there. Would you like me to address you as bishop or apostle?
Either one.
Either one's okay?
Yeah, either one. I'm not offended by it. Can we have a word of prayer before we start?
Sure.
Father God, we thank you first of all for this day, allowing us to participate in your plan, your divine order. We thank you, Lord God, for giving us safe passage to this point. We ask you that you take charge, Holy Spirit, over this interview. Let your name be glorified, let your will be done. In the name of Jesus, amen. So,
Okay, you can start.
okay. Mr. Trump, I want to thank you for coming to the Impact Network, giving us this interview, and I appreciate it.
It's my honor.
The first question is that I want to ask you, are you a Christian?
Yes, I am.
You're a Christian?
Yes, I am.
Your Christian faith, tell us a little bit about, your conviction of being a Christian.
Well, I'm Presbyterian, and I grew up in Queens, New York, and I went to First Presbyterian Church of Jamaica when I was a little boy, and I'd go to Sunday school religiously. I'd go all the time. My mother and father would bring me, and it was just an amazing, I had a great childhood. But the church was very important. It was something that was just automatic. And sadly, Bishop, you don't see it today the same way. But Sunday school was something that you didn't think about. It was just something you automatically did. Yeah. I'd go to church with my parents. I was originally, and it was still there. It's a very old church, actually. It's a beautiful church, beautiful white wooden church. And I saw it about a year ago. I passed it. I was in that general area. I said, I want to go past First Presbyterian Church. But so I had a very Christian upbringing.
How does your faith govern your daily life?
Well, I think it does. I'm in a rough and tumble world, as you know, as probably we all are in our own ways. But I live in a crazy world and a crazy life I'm having, and it's been a lot of fun, and I've had a lot of success. And I think that's why I'm doing this. I want to bring success to this country. This country's so far behind in so many ways. We're losing it. And certainly if you look at the inner cities, even driving up to your beautiful establishment, your beautiful church, you see the closed stores and you see the trouble. I mean, you can look. That's what I do. I'm number one. I'm a real estate person, and I can look at an area and I can see the trouble. I can see the lack of jobs without looking at the stats, and it's very sad. It's very sad to see, and I will bring it back. I'll bring the inner cities back. I'll bring a lot of things back that no politician's going to do. It's a different mindset.
What is your impression as you rode by like this whole strip, and you see the vacant buildings, even this whole block? This church now is in a mall. This used to be a shopping mall, 170,000 square feet, and storefronts are closed down. And, I mean, what comes in your mind when you see things like that?
Well, it's very sad to me, and I look at it. And again, from a real estate mindset, I say, wow, it's so much, you could see this thriving probably 30 years ago. And like you said, that's a big shopping center, and you have your church here, and you've done a beautiful job. And this is a vibrancy right here. But for the most part, it's in such trouble. Honestly, it's unbelievable. You see there's potential, but the potential isn't being recognized. And Detroit's having a very hard time. But there are many cities, inner cities, that are having tremendous. I mean, I could go through them so much. You see what's going on in Baltimore, and you see what's going on in Oakland, and you see what's going on in so many. I mean, just so many. And nothing's being done about it except talk. The politicians keep talking, give me your vote, and then we'll see you in 4 years. So I want to change that.
Well, Mr. Trump, there is a racial divide in our country, and it's evident that the tension is boiling over.
Right.
Case in point, the Reverend Pinkley in South Carolina, when he and his parishioners was in a Bible class, and there was a stranger came in. And, black churches have always been, loving.
That's right.
And the Reverend and his church community brought him in, and he turned around and killed the Reverend and 8 other parishioners. And then we see the outpour of anger because this man said that he wanted to start a race war. Right. If elected president, how will you bring this country together race-wise? Even your visit here is very controversial.
Well, that was a terrible thing, and I think he was he was a very sick person to start off with. He was crazy. But the amazing outpouring of love after that event, that was a horrible event. It was a horrible tragedy. And you're right, they embraced him. Mm-hmm. And then something went crazy. But the outpouring, it really sent a signal because that was an outpouring of love. It was so beautiful to see what happened afterwards.
Yeah, no question about that.
But what they have to do is we need spirit in our country. Mm-hmm. And we don't have that spirit. We're really very much a divided country. And I think one of the things, Bishop, that's so important is jobs. We just don't have jobs. If you look at African American youth, where they have 58% unemployment, 58%. And they really don't have much hope right now. And I will bring hope because I'm going to bring our jobs back. But we need jobs and we need spirit.
Well, okay, but if there is a situation where, the Bible says, a house divided can't stand.
Right.
God made this country up of great people.
Right.
White, black, Hispanic, Asian, Native Indians. What would be your heart feeling to bring us together as one and to say that we are Americans and we stand together as America?
I think the president has to be a cheerleader for the country. Aside from everything else, there's a lot of things happening. But I think the President of the United States has to be a cheerleader for the country. And you have to bring the black and the white and the everything. You have to bring everybody together. Different income groups. Mm-hmm. There's tremendous division right now. And you probably would say that you've seen it as much as you've ever seen it, maybe more than you've ever seen it before. But there's tremendous division right now. Incredible. And I'll tell you, a lot of it has to do with the fact that certainly in the inner cities, there's no jobs. If you look at Baltimore, if you look at D.C., if you look at different places, there are no jobs. The jobs have left our country to such an extent that you have to see what's going on in Mexico. It's like the 8th wonder of the world, the factories that are being built, the plants that are being built, the car plants. We're not doing that here. We're not doing that. We're losing our manufacturing. We're losing our base. And it really puts people in a very bad position. But aside from that, you have to be a cheerleader.
I agree with you. If you give someone a job, and certainly there's a lot of black males that are not employed, and they want to take care of their families just like anyone else. Every, law-abiding African-American mother, father want to see their child successful. But we have been feeling that mostly the inner cities have been overlooked. We've been getting false promises down through the years from the Democrats and the Republicans. How can we believe you? You're saying that you're going to do something better when it comes to employing these African Americans, whoever it may be. But I'm mainly speaking about our people because I live in this community. Right. I pastor people. I pastor a mother who may be working at a minimum wage job, and she's just trying to make it work. Right. I pastor men who have been in jail, got a record, and then they get out of jail and they go get their lives together, and then you turn around and see that they can't get a job, so that runs them to unlawful acts. I mean, how can we overcome that? Let me give you a case in point.
Go ahead.
There's a young man works for me. His name is Kevin Brown. Kevin Brown, at 17 years old, went and committed an armed robbery. He did his time. He got out, went to Wayne State University, graduated at the top of his class, then turned around, went back, and got his degree in accounting. Forgive me. Then he got his degree, and he went to get a job. And they say, look, look at his application. Wow, you're qualified. They did a background check on him. Saw that he had a record. They fired him. Kevin works for me now. He works for me now, and Kevin is one of the best employees I have. He's very sharp. I mean, black men in this country seem to be, targets. It seems to be targets for police officers, targets for racial discrimination.
Right.
Well, how would you bring that together?
Well, it's a very rough situation that you have. And I know, a lot of people went to prison and they have that on their record. And you can understand both sides of it. And Clinton, with the crime bill that was passed, he takes a lot of people don't like what he did years ago.
But how would you help that?
Well, I think what you do, and I think what I do, why I'm different, is that I'm not a politician. And being a non-politician, sometimes people say, oh, he's too direct. But being a non-politician, I think that's a positive thing because we can get things straightened out. Again, the problem that Kevin has is there aren't enough jobs. So he's got that on his resume, which is a negative. Let's face it, it's a negative. And so people that are employers have the pick. They can do whatever they want to do. Once you have the jobs and the people coming in that are going to create the jobs, they'll be taking Kevin, they'll be taking everybody else. But right now, when they see that, they didn't see it at the beginning, but they saw it at the end, they consider that to be a negative. But we have to bring jobs back so that Kevin can not just have, maybe get one job. We can have a choice of 5 or 6 different jobs, and he can get more money and higher wages. Bishop, right now, if you look back 18 years ago, people were making more money than they're making right now. You see it better than I would. But, it's a statistic. 18 years ago, people made more money, and they worked not as hard, and they were younger. Now they're older. Many of them are working 2 jobs, and they're making less money. It's going in reverse. It's supposed to be going, as you get older, you're supposed to maybe ease up a little bit, right? But they're older, they're working harder, in some cases need 2 jobs. It's just bad what's happened to the country, and we have to turn it around, and we have to create jobs. And then somebody like Kevin will have his pick. They'll be wanting him.
So you're saying that you're gonna create jobs.
We have to create jobs. We have no choice.
And help these people who have tried to make it off of minimum wage jobs, trying to make it off of jobs, that they're trying to take care of a family of 4, 5. I see mothers. We have a food bank here. My wife and I are very benevolent. God has blessed us. I see the breakdown in the family, the breakdown in the minds of the people. If you don't give a man hope, a man's going to go to something else.
Yeah. Well, what you do is amazing. African American people that are really talking about a very similar product, thing, because they can't get, one of them makes product, okay, and they can't distribute it. One of them can't get the help because of certain problems they have. It's all things that you would think would be pretty simple to solve, but it's very, very hard for them. A lot of it is special interests because, the special interests have companies and they want to move the companies. They want to move them to different countries because they get certain advantages. And a lot of it has to do with special interest groups. The good news is very few of them represent me. I can tell you that right now. But being a non-politician is a big thing. This is the first time that's going to happen. Don't forget, you and I would have had the same conversation 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago about the inner cities that we're having right now.
As an African American, I care about all people, but I care about my people also.
Right.
They have been overlooked. People have taken them for granted. Mr. Trump, every law-abiding African American believes in and support our law enforcement agencies.
Right.
Recently, we have been seeing a flare of uprising, of a lot of riots has been taking place because of some of the questionable shootings of unarmed black men. On one case, you even said that, listen, that looked like that was on Castile, that was very questionable. And every African American, we love the law enforcement. But again, we see questionable shootings of unarmed black men. And then we turn around and see a white man takes and rape a girl, unconscious girl, for unconscious, he gets 6 months, he does 3 months.
Right. I saw that.
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, what would your Justice Department look like? Are we going to? I know you stand up for you're the law enforcement guy, and that's good. We all want to have that.
For the inner cities more than anybody, because the inner cities are being hurt by crime. You know, it's interesting when you look at Chicago, and you look at the tremendous number. They've had 2,800 shootings since the beginning of the year. People have been hit by bullets. So that's worse than war zones.
And we're tired of that.
Sure. So we need the law enforcement. And I'll tell you what, I know I have so many African American friends that actually have great respect and love the law enforcement because they want it. They want more of it because they have to. You can't walk down the street and get
but
shot.
When we take these officers who's shooting a man that's running in the back.
Yeah, terrible.
You know,
I saw that. I thought it was terrible.
You said that.
I thought it was terrible. I saw a number of them. I saw a number of them, all three. I mean, you mentioned the other one who was shot in the car.
And how about the man that was laying, he was laying in the street.
Terrible.
Both arms
Terrible.
and feet up, and they still shot him.
Yeah,
This is
terrible.
crazy. What would you do? I mean, how would you stop? We don't want to support, I don't care who it is. Wrong is wrong, right is right. How would you say, listen, this would not be tolerated. If I'm elected president, I would not allow no one, whether they have a badge or what, to do something like that.
Well, that was a bad one. I mean, look, there have been a number of very bad ones, and you see them now, maybe more than ever before, because of cell phone cameras and even when they wear the cameras, the police wear the cameras. You need training. You have to have training.
Will you do that?
And you have to have training. You have to have better training, obviously, than what they have. The one problem is you'll always have bad apples. You know that.
no question.
No matter how good we are. No matter how good. And remember that, for 100,000 good acts, if there's one
Yes.
bad act, that act, and you and I are talking about the same acts, because I didn't like them
Yeah, you
any
said
better
that.
than you, and I
Yeah.
said it. I was very open, and I'm very strong for law enforcement, but I was very open. I saw some of these things. I said, that's not right. I mean, you didn't even mention a couple. I could mention more than you mentioned.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
to
the
be honest.
officer the other day, there was a man on the railroad track. I don't know if you saw that, and the
I saw
train
that.
was coming.
I
He
saw
wanted to kill himself. This was a heavy guy.
I saw that.
This officer was trying his best to pull this guy off the tracks before the train hit him. And at the last minute, it's a split second, bam, he got him out the way. We have a lot of heroic acts that our police officers do. But then we have some that feel like that I'm wearing this badge and I'm going to shoot you. And we need to have something. The African American community want to know, if Donald Trump is elected president, will he make sure that not only standing with the law enforcement, but we want to make sure that he will stand for all people.
Well, I will. And I will say this. Again, you're always going to have bad apples.
Oh, yeah.
We have to all
yeah.
understand that, because nobody's going to say nothing like that will ever happen. But I will say it's such a rarity. Now, the difference is when that happens, it's on television, it's played, over and over and over again, because we do have, as you know, better than me maybe, you have wonderful police that do a wonderful
Detroit
job.
Police Department under Chief Craig, wonderful.
They do a wonderful job.
Wonderful job.
But it is training, and if you see something, because sometimes you can spot people, as you know, you can spot people, and if they see somebody that they think is going to be trouble, they have to do something about
So
it.
your Justice Department, will you put together a special force to say, listen, we're going to get the bad ones out, we're going to train the good ones, sensitivity, and diversity. Would that be
I think conceptually that would be good. I think a lot of times, for instance, some of the people that came over and did such damage, they came over from Syria, they came over from wherever, San Bernardino as an example. They knew that these people were trouble, but nobody reported them. The guy from Orlando, you look at what happened in Orlando, he was a very bad guy, a very troubled guy, and nobody reported. But if there's some form of doing that where you try and weed people out before a problem happens. But no, there are things that happen that I don't like seeing at all. I don't like seeing them at all.
looking at the recent conventions, the two conventions, we had the Republicans, we had the Democrats. If you looked at the Republican convention, it was mostly white people. Look at the Democrat convention, you had black, white, Hispanic, Native Indians, and so forth and so on. It seems like there's a contrast there, and
I noticed it.
Okay.
I noticed.
And how did you feel about that?
Well, I didn't like it, and I'll be honest with you. Again, I'm not a politician. You know, I campaigned, I beat a lot of people, I got the nomination, but I'm not a politician. I'm a person that's been very successful. I built, a really great company, and here I sit. But the truth is, I didn't like it. With that being said, I don't like the job the Democrats have been doing representing African American people and, frankly, Hispanics and others. Because if you look at the inner cities and if you look at the poverty rate of 40%, 58% of black youth can't get jobs. You look at by the way, the crime rate is through the roof and going much higher. So, I say a lot of representation of African Americans, and the other thing, what have they done for the African Americans? They've done nothing. That's why I sort of say now when I make speeches, I made a speech the other day and I said, what do you have to lose by choosing me? It's not going to get any worse. I mean, I was going over the statistics. The crime is through the roof. Everything is bad.
And why did you say it like that? Because some people...
Some people didn't like it, but I say it proudly. I say, what do they have to lose? What does anybody have to lose? You have massive crime, record-setting crime. You have all of these problems. You have poverty that's horrible. You have bad education in the inner cities. You have... Everything is bad. Everything is bad.
But
and I say to people, what do you have to lose? What I'd say, though, is what do you have to lose? I'll fix it. I'm going to make it better. That's actually a statement of hope. But honestly, you look at some of these statistics, and it can't get any worse. I mean, you can go to war-torn countries, and it's safer to be in those. When you go to Afghanistan, it's safer than being in certain of our cities. So I really do. Some people have said, oh, gee, maybe that's not nice to say, but I mean it. It's not going to get any worse. I met with the people in Philadelphia yesterday. An incredible mother who lost a daughter to an illegal immigrant. This woman was incredible, what she's gone through. And I look at the kind of treatment that she's gotten since this happened. It's terrible. It's terrible. And so I do say, I will make it better. I'll fix it. I say it, and some people say, "Oh, gee, that's not nice." But my attitude is,
and when people
I'm honest.
say, "Well, Mr. Trump, you say you're going to fix it, you're going to make jobs," but they say you have not laid a policy out. Are you putting?
Well, my policy is jobs. My policy is jobs, and my policy is I'm going to be a cheerleader for the country. And the country is a big part of the country is our inner cities that are dying so badly. They're dying, as you mentioned to me. I mean. You drive down the roads and you look at these places. It's very sad.
Well, this church is in, and when you look at the zip code, right, is in one of the most distressed zip codes in the in Detroit.
Well, that's what's so amazing, the job you've done, and you have a packed house too, which is exciting.
Last question, sir.
Okay, let me ask this question. Now there are some. This is a good step. But let me ask this question, two questions, and we're going to close this interview. There is a perception that you are a racist. Perception. Yeah. Someone asked me, I said, well, I've never met Mr. Trump. I never met you, but I heard some things about you from some African Americans, because I sat down and I talked to them. I wanted to know. And some people that I know who are, for the blacks. Right.
Right.
And I said, is Mr. Trump, is he a racist? Yeah. And they begin to tell me stories and begin to say how you help black people. They told me if I could mention this about Jennifer Hudson and some things that happened that you've done that has not been told. Now, in front of everybody.
The press hates those stories.
Are you a racist?
Absolutely not. I'm the least racist person that you've ever met. A very big, very important black leader called me a racist. And he knows me. And he then called me and said, could I come up and see you? And he apologized. and he actually apologized.
Were
to
you
me.
called a racist before you got in the race?
Well, not really.
Because I never heard
What
that.
happened is, as soon as you run, anybody, look, they were calling Romney a racist, they were calling McCain a racist. They call everybody that's a Republican a racist. It's automatic. Usually when they start to lose, we're doing very well now. Our polls are, one just came up today where we're leading by 3 points, and our polls are doing very well, especially over the last 3 weeks. And all of a sudden, it's getting more and more vicious because the better we're doing, and we have a great campaign going, despite a very, very dishonest media. But I will say that it gets more and more so. But no, I am the least racist person that you've ever met. And you can speak to Don King, who knows me very well. You can speak to so many different people. And they say, so many of my friends who are black, they say, you are the least racist person. But no, I am the least racist person that you have ever talked to. That I can tell you.
Well, I heard some stories, and I feel that you need to let that stories get out as far as some of the things you've done for people.
Oh, it's so nice that you say it that way. I appreciate it.
No, I heard them, and I was, again, I'm not trying to. This interview is all about getting the truth and try to the best of my ability. I am not a journalist, but I'm just trying to share your heart with
First
people.
of all, you're better than most journalists, and second of all, you are really a nice man, because when I came here, I didn't know what I was coming to. I figured you could be, somebody that would sort of put it the opposite way. Oh, I've heard bad stories, but you're saying you heard good stories. And there are. Look, I love people, and I don't care if they're white or black or anything else. I don't care. But I so appreciate this interview, the way you've conducted it. Now, I put myself in a position where where you could have taken advantage of the situation. I really appreciate this interview, and I very much respect you for doing it this way.
Thank you. Before we close, let me ask one question. One more.
That's okay. Let him do it.
One more, please. This is a good sit down. This is the beginning. I understand you went to black. It was a school yesterday.
Yes.
And you're going to other African American churches.
Going to be doing a lot of traveling to African American communities and churches.
They asked for you to come. Now you come, and so thank God for that. But there are known African American men in this country that people respect, like a Mark Morial, the Urban League, and you have Al Sharpton. You have the NAACP.
I think Al Sharpton actually likes me. It's not cool for him to say so because he works for a certain network, but I've always had a very good relationship with Al. And I think Al Sharpton actually likes me, but, who knows?
Will you sit down if they ask you, or would you make an attempt to sit down with the NAACP and these black
I would do
men?
that, sure.
And
Look,
Ben Chavez of
Sure. If I think they can be fair. With you, I didn't know. You're highly respected, by the way, just in case you didn't know that, right? But you are highly
So
respected.
that's why you chose me.
That's why I chose. No, honestly, because I was really putting myself in a position that's, who knows? That's why I so appreciate the tenor of the interview. I think it's a very fair interview. Absolutely, I would be willing to do that and would have no problem whatsoever.
I would hope that would happen, because there's a lot of people that want to meet with you, and we just thank you for this interview. And
Thank you very
God
much,
bless.
Bishop. It's a great honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
He's a good man. Great man.
Great
Thank you
job.
very much.
Thank you.